My ex sued me for child support. DNA test exposed everything. The certified letter arrived on a Tuesday morning that would split my life into before and after. I was halfway through my first cup of coffee, still in pajama pants, when I saw the return address, Hartwell and Associates, Family Law. My stomach dropped like I'd swallowed ice. Marcus Chen versus Paternity Establishment and Child Support. The words blurred together as I read them twice, then 3 times. Sarah Martinez was suing me for child support. For a 3-year-old named Emma. My hands started shaking as I calculated the timeline. It lined up perfectly with when she'd vanished from my life. I hadn't heard from Sarah in exactly 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days. Not that I was counting or anything. The last time I saw her was in my apartment doorway, tears streaming down her face as she told me she was pregnant and needed space to figure things out. She'd blocked my number that same night, deleted all her social media, and disappeared like smoke. The lawsuit demanded $2,847 monthly in child support, plus $34,164 in back payments for the 3 years she'd been raising our daughter alone. Nearly $70,000. My software engineer's salary was decent, but that would cripple me financially. I called my buddy Jake immediately. He'd been there through the whole Sarah nightmare, watching me spiral into self-doubt and depression after she left. "Dude, this is insane," he said after I read him the papers. "Are you sure you're the father? I mean, we were together for 8 months. The timing works." I rubbed my temples, feeling a familiar headache building. But Jake, she literally disappeared. Wouldn't take my calls, nothing. I tried everything to reach her. "Didn't you date Lisa around that time?" "Right after Sarah left." My chest tightened. Lisa. Beautiful, kind Lisa who tried to help me through my darkest period. I pushed her away because I was so messed up about Sarah's disappearance and the pregnancy bomb she dropped. Lisa deserved better than a guy who couldn't commit because he was hung up on his missing ex and potential baby mama. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I screwed that up pretty bad." The legal papers gave me 30 days to respond. According to the filing, Sarah was now living in Westfield, an expensive suburb 40 minutes away. She'd provided my old address, my full name, even my employee ID number from TechFlow Solutions. She'd done her homework. I spent the rest of the morning researching family lawyers, my savings account balance getting smaller with every consultation fee I saw advertised. David Morrison seemed decent enough, straightforward, experienced with paternity cases, and he didn't charge for the initial consultation. "The first thing we do is request a DNA test," Morrison explained when I met him that afternoon. "Court ordered, so there's no disputing the results. Until paternity is established, you're not responsible for anything." What if I am the father? The question tasted bitter. Then we work out a fair support arrangement. "But Marcus, here's what's bothering me, why now? Why wait 3 years? Most mothers file within the first year if they need support." I'd wondered the same thing. Sarah had a college degree in marketing, came from money. Her parents owned a successful restaurant chain. Why would she suddenly need child support now? "There's something else," Morrison continued, studying the paperwork. "She's requesting an unusually high amount for this area. Either this kid has serious medical expenses, or..." He didn't finish the sentence, but his expression said enough. Something wasn't right. The DNA test was scheduled for the following Friday at MedGenetics Lab on Oak Street. Sarah and I would both need to appear with Emma, our first face-to-face meeting in over 3 years. My lawyer advised me to stay calm, don't engage beyond what was necessary, and definitely don't admit to anything. I barely slept Thursday night, running through every possible scenario. What would I say to her? What would Emma look like? Did she have my eyes, my stubborn cowlick? The thought of having a daughter I'd never met felt surreal and terrifying. I arrived at the lab 15 minutes early, wearing my best button-down shirt like I was going to a job interview. The waiting room smelled like disinfectant and had that generic medical office vibe, beige walls, outdated magazines, uncomfortable chairs designed to make you leave quickly. At exactly 10 a.m., Sarah walked in. She looked incredible. Better than incredible, actually. Her dark hair was professionally styled, and she was wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. Diamond earrings caught the fluorescent light as she turned her head. This wasn't the struggling single mother I'd imagined. Behind her, a little girl with curly blonde hair clung to her hand. Emma. My breath caught in my throat. She was beautiful, but looking at her, I felt nothing. No recognition, no instant paternal connection. She looked nothing like me. "Marcus." Sarah's voice was steady, controlled. "You look good." "Sarah." I nodded, trying to match her calm tone. "This is Emma." The little girl buried her face in Sarah's leg. Sarah smoothed her hair protectively. "She's shy around strangers." Strangers. The word hit like a slap. If I was Emma's father, I shouldn't be a stranger. "Nice dress," I said, unable to keep the edge out of my voice. "Business must be good." Her perfectly applied lipstick curved into a tight smile. "I've been fortunate." The lab technician called us back, a cheerful woman named Rita who chatted about the weather while she swabbed the inside of my cheek, then Emma's, then Sarah's. The whole process took maybe 10 minutes. 3 years of wondering, reduced to cotton swabs and plastic tubes. "Results will be ready in 48 to 72 hours, Rita explained. "We'll call the lawyer's office directly." As we walked back to the parking lot, Sarah caught my arm. "Marcus, I want you to know. I never wanted it to come to this. Legal proceedings, I mean." "Then why did it?" I stopped walking, facing her fully for the first time. "Sarah, you disappeared. You blocked my number. I tried to reach you for months." "I was scared," she said, but her eyes didn't meet mine. "I was young and overwhelmed, and I thought it would be easier if I handled everything alone." "Easier for who?" The frustration I'd been bottling up started leaking out. "Do you have any idea what the last 3 years have been like for me? Wondering if I had a kid out there. Wondering if you were okay." Emma tugged on Sarah's hand, wanting to leave. Sarah glanced around the parking lot nervously, like she was afraid someone might see us arguing. Look, we'll know soon enough, she said, scooping Emma up. Maybe we can all move forward after this. I watched her load Emma into a brand new BMW SUV, easily a $60,000 vehicle. As she pulled out of the parking space, I noticed the temporary tags. The car was so new she hadn't even gotten permanent plates yet. Morrison's words echoed in my head, either this kid has serious medical expenses, or a struggling single mother doesn't drive off the lot in a brand new BMW. Something definitely wasn't right. The call came Tuesday morning at 9:47 a.m. I know the exact time because I was staring at my phone, willing it to ring, when Morrison's number finally appeared on the screen. Marcus, we got the results. His voice was different, lighter somehow. You're not the father. 0 probability of paternity. The relief hit me like a physical force. My legs actually gave out, and I had to sit down hard on my kitchen counter. 3 years of wondering, of carrying this weight, and just like that, gone. Are you sure? The test is definitive. Completely. The lab ran it twice to be certain. You have no biological relationship to Emma Martinez. I should have felt vindicated. Happy. Free. Instead, a different emotion started creeping in, anger. Pure, hot anger. So what happens now? I asked. Legally. The case gets dismissed. Sarah's claim has no merit. Morrison paused. But Marcus, I have to ask, if you're not the father, why did she think you were? Were there other men she was involved with during that time frame? That's when it hit me. Sarah hadn't seemed surprised at the lab. Most women filing paternity suits show some anxiety about DNA results, even when they're certain. Sarah had been calm, almost resigned. Like she already knew what the outcome would be. I need to think about this, I told Morrison. Send me copies of everything, the test results, all the paperwork. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen for 20 minutes, staring at nothing. Then I did something I'd avoided for 3 years. I looked up Sarah Martinez on social media. Her Facebook profile was locked down tight, but her Instagram told a different story. The account was public, probably for her marketing consulting business. What I saw made my blood run cold. Photos of Emma at the zoo, timestamped 2 weeks ago. The caption read, Daddy-daughter day, but Emma wasn't with Sarah in the photo, she was with a tall guy in a Red Sox jersey. The comments were full of heart emojis and, such a good dad, responses. I scrolled further back. Emma's 3rd birthday party last month, elaborate setup in someone's backyard, easily a $5,000 event. Another man in the photos, different from Red Sox guy. This one was tagged, thanks for making our princess's day so special at MikeJohnson_fit. My hands were shaking as I kept scrolling. Christmas morning, Emma opening presents under a massive tree. A third man, older, wearing an expensive watch I recognized as a Rolex Submariner. The caption, Emma's so lucky to have such an amazing daddy. #blessed #family star. 3 different men. All referred to as daddy. All in the span of 6 months. I screenshot everything, my mind racing. Then I did something that probably wasn't entirely legal. I reverse searched the tagged usernames and found their full profiles. Mike Johnson, 31, personal trainer from Newton. Recently posted about supporting my girls with photos of Sarah and Emma. The Red Sox jersey guy was David Kim, 34, works in finance according to his LinkedIn. His Instagram showed regular photos with Emma going back over a year. The older guy with the Rolex was harder to track, but his profile mentioned something about grateful for my beautiful fiancé and stepdaughter. Posted just last week. Sarah was engaged. And apparently, multiple men thought they were Emma's father. I called Morrison back immediately. I need to ask you something, I said. Is there any way to find out if other paternity cases have been filed for the same child? That's an interesting question. Why do you ask? I told him about the Instagram photos, the multiple daddies, the timeline that didn't add up. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Marcus, what you're describing sounds like paternity fraud. If Sarah is collecting support from multiple men for the same child, is that illegal? Extremely. It's wire fraud, potentially conspiracy, depending on how elaborate the scheme is. His voice was getting excited, the way lawyers sound when they smell a big case. And if she's been doing this for 3 years. We're talking about serious money, I finished. We're talking about felony charges. I hung up and stared at my laptop screen, at the photos of Sarah's perfect life funded by lies. The designer clothes, the new BMW, the elaborate parties, all paid for by men who thought they were supporting their daughter. But this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about Lisa, and how I pushed away the best thing in my life because I was consumed by guilt and confusion over a child that was never mine. This was about 3 years of my life stolen by Sarah's manipulation. She'd made a mistake going after me legally. Because now I had proof, and I had motivation. And I was very good at solving problems. The next morning, I called in sick to work and did what I do best. I started building a database. 3 years of software engineering had taught me that every problem could be solved with the right data and enough patience. Sarah's Instagram gave me the foundation, but I needed more. Much more. I started with David Kim, the finance guy from the Red Sox photos. His LinkedIn showed he worked at Meridian Capital Management in downtown Boston. His Facebook wasn't completely locked down, I could see tagged photos going back 2 years. There was Sarah at his company Christmas party in 2022, wearing a stunning red dress and mingling with his coworkers like she belonged there. The photo comments told the story, David's girlfriend is gorgeous, and, when are you going to propose, man? But here's what made my stomach turn, there were photos of Emma at David's apartment, her toys scattered around his living room. A makeshift princess castle set up in his spare bedroom. This wasn't casual dating. David believed he was in a committed relationship with Sarah and thought Emma was his daughter. Mike Johnson was even easier to track. Personal trainers live on social media, and his Instagram was a goldmine. Photos of him teaching Emma to ride a bike last summer. Father's Day posts about being blessed with my little girl. Credit card receipts he'd stupidly posted showing payments to Little Stars Daycare, $1,200 a month. The older guy with the Rolex took more work, but wedding planning posts from Sarah's friends eventually led me to him. Robert Castellano, 42, owns 3 Italian restaurants in the North End. His engagement to Sarah was announced in Boston Magazine just 6 weeks ago. The article mentioned his devotion to his future stepdaughter Emma and included a photo of them at one of his restaurants, Emma in a tiny chef's hat. I created a spreadsheet tracking everything: names, addresses, employers, social media posts, financial evidence. The pattern was becoming clear. Sarah would target successful men, introduce Emma as her daughter, let them assume paternity naturally, then slowly integrate them into a father role. Once they were emotionally invested, the financial requests would start. Emma needs new clothes. Daycare raised their rates. She has a doctor's appointment, could you cover it? Never direct child support demands. Too obvious. Just a loving girlfriend letting her devoted boyfriend help support their daughter. By Thursday, I had identified at least 4 men who'd been actively involved in Emma's life over the past 3 years. But I needed to know who Emma's real father was. That's when I remembered Sarah's sister Jessica. We'd gotten along well during Sarah and my relationship. She'd even reached out after Sarah disappeared, asking if I'd heard from her. Jessica was the responsible one in the family, a nurse at Mass General who'd always seemed uncomfortable with Sarah's dramatic tendencies. I found Jessica's number in my old contacts and sent a careful text, *K Jessica, hope you're well. I had some legal papers served about Emma, got me thinking about Sarah. Hope they're both doing okay. Would love to catch up sometime, *. She responded within an hour, Marcus. Oh God, I was wondering when this would catch up with her. Can you talk? I'm off work at 6, *. Jessica agreed to meet me at a coffee shop in Somerville, far from Sarah's usual haunts. She looked tired when she walked in, her nurse scrubs wrinkled from a long shift. I've been waiting 3 years for someone to ask the right questions, she said before I'd even ordered my coffee. So you know what Sarah's been doing? Jessica's laugh was bitter. Emma's father is a guy named Tyler Morrison. Sarah met him at a conference in Chicago, one night stand. He doesn't even know Emma exists. Tyler Morrison. I wrote the name in my phone. Why didn't Sarah tell him? Because Tyler was nobody special. Nice enough guy, but he was a grad student, broke, no prospects. Sarah wanted better. Jessica stirred her coffee absently. When she got pregnant, she started thinking about which of her exes would make the best father. You were in the running, along with 2 other guys she'd dated that year. She was shopping for a baby daddy. Exactly. But then she realized she could do better than just picking one. Why settle for one man's support when she could have several? The coffee shop suddenly felt too warm. How long have you known? I figured it out about 2 years ago when she introduced me to Emma's father, some trainer named Mike. But I'd already met Emma's father 6 months earlier, a different guy entirely. Jessica met my eyes. I confronted Sarah about it. She told me I was imagining things, that I was just jealous of her happiness. Why didn't you report her? With what proof? And honestly, Marcus, those men seemed happy. They loved Emma, they were providing for her. I kept telling myself maybe Sarah found a way to give Emma multiple father figures, and what was wrong with that? She shook her head. But when she filed legal papers against you, I knew it had gone too far. I leaned forward. Jessica, I need Tyler's information. Emma's real father deserves to know he has a daughter. She was already pulling out her phone. I've been carrying his contact info for 2 years, waiting for the right moment. Tyler Morrison answered on the second ring. His voice was cautious, probably wondering why a stranger from Boston was calling him at 9 p.m. on a Thursday. Tyler, this is going to sound crazy, but I need to ask you about Sarah Martinez. You met her at a marketing conference in Chicago about 4 years ago. Long pause. Sarah, yeah, I remember her. Dark hair, worked for some restaurant chain. We hung out one night. Why? My heart was pounding. Tyler, she had a daughter. Emma. She's 3 years old now. Another pause, longer this time. Okay, and? The timeline matches up perfectly with when you two met. Tyler, I think Emma might be your daughter. The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. Finally, that's impossible. We used protection. Besides, if Sarah had gotten pregnant, she would have told me. We exchanged numbers, stayed in touch for a few weeks after. When did you last hear from her? Maybe 6 months after Chicago. She just stopped responding to my texts. I figured she'd met someone else. His voice was getting tighter. Wait, why are you calling me about this? Who are you? I took a deep breath. My name is Marcus Chen. Sarah sued me for child support, claiming I was Emma's father. The DNA test came back negative, but I've discovered she's been running the same scam on multiple men. Tyler, she's collected thousands of dollars from at least 4 different guys, all thinking they're Emma's dad. Jesus Christ. I could hear him moving around, probably pacing. Are you serious? This isn't some kind of joke. I have documentation. Financial records, social media posts, everything. But here's what really matters, if you're Emma's biological father, you have rights. And that little girl deserves to know who her real dad is. Tyler was quiet for almost a minute. When he spoke again, his voice was shaky. I always wanted kids. My ex-girlfriend and I broke up 2 years ago because she didn't want children and I did. If Emma is mine, there's only one way to find out. Are you willing to take a DNA test? Absolutely. But how do we make that happen without Sarah knowing? That was the problem I've been wrestling with all day. Sarah would never voluntarily submit Emma for another paternity test, especially not with Tyler. But Jessica might have the answer. Let me work on that. Tyler, can you get to Boston this weekend? I'll drive up tomorrow night. Marcus, if this is real, if Emma is my daughter, I want full custody. What Sarah's doing, that's fraud, right? Child endangerment. My lawyer thinks we're looking at multiple felonies. Wire fraud, conspiracy, maybe tax evasion if she hasn't been reporting the support payments as income. I was already planning the next steps. Tyler, I need to ask, do you have any way to prove you and Sarah were together in Chicago? Hotel receipts, restaurant charges, anything. I kept everything. Call me sentimental, but she was special that night. Or I thought she was. His laugh was bitter. I have the hotel bill, Uber receipts, even the bar tab from where we met. Why? Because we're going to need a timeline that proves you're Emma's father and Sarah knew it. This isn't just about child support fraud anymore, she's stolen 3 years of your daughter's life. After we hung up, I sat staring at my spreadsheet of Sarah's victims. David Kim, who'd been paying Emma's daycare for over a year. Mike Johnson, who'd bought her a bedroom set and taught her to ride a bike. Robert Castellano, who was planning to legally adopt her after his wedding to Sarah next month. And now Tyler Morrison, Emma's real father, who'd been completely cut out of his daughter's life. Sarah's web of lies was about to come crashing down. But first, I needed to contact the other men she'd been scamming. They deserved to know the truth before I went to the authorities. This was going to get ugly fast. I started with David Kim because he seemed like the most straightforward approach. Finance guys appreciate data, and I had plenty of that. I found his work email through Meridian Capital's website and sent a carefully worded message Friday morning. Asterisk David, you don't know me, but we have something important in common regarding Sarah Martinez and Emma. I have information you need to see. Can we meet this weekend? This concerns Emma's welfare and your legal/financial exposure. Marcus Chin asterisk. His response came back in 20 minutes, asterisk who is this? How did you get my work email, asterisk? I replied with a single screenshot, Sarah's Instagram post from Christmas showing Emma with Robert Castellano, caption Emma's so lucky to have such an amazing daddy. David called me directly 15 minutes later. What the hell is this? His voice was shaking with anger. Who is that man with Emma? His name is Robert Castellano. He owns restaurants in the North End. Sarah's engaged to him. I kept my voice steady, professional. David, how long have you been supporting Emma financially? That's none of your business. And Sarah isn't engaged to anyone. We've been together for 2 years, we're talking about moving in together next month. My stomach twisted. Sarah was more ruthless than I'd imagined. David, I need you to listen carefully. Sarah sued me for child support 3 months ago, claiming I was Emma's father. The DNA test proved I'm not. But I've discovered she's been running the same scam on multiple men simultaneously. That's impossible. Sarah would never. Check your Instagram right now. Look at Robert Castellano's profile. The engagement announcement was in Boston Magazine 6 weeks ago. The line went quiet except for the sound of typing. Then, oh my god. Oh my god, this can't be real. It gets worse. I found at least 3 other men she's been financially manipulating. David, when's the last time you took a paternity test for Emma? I never. Sarah said she was mine. The timing worked out, and Emma calls me daddy, and I just. His voice cracked. I've been paying her daycare for 18 months. I bought her bedroom furniture. I have life insurance with Emma as my beneficiary. How much money are we talking about total? Jesus, I don't know. Maybe 40,000. 50. I never tracked it because she was my daughter. He was quiet for a moment. Marcus, who are you? Why are you telling me this? Because Sarah destroyed 3 years of my life with her lies, and I'm not going to let her keep destroying other people. I pulled up Tyler's contact information. David, I found Emma's biological father. His name is Tyler Morrison, and he doesn't even know Emma exists. Her biological father. David's voice was getting higher. Then who have I been, what have I been paying for? Sarah's lifestyle. Check out her Instagram, the designer clothes, the new BMW, the expensive parties. She's been funding it all with money from men who think they're supporting their daughter. David was quiet for so long I thought the call had dropped. Finally, I want to meet this Tyler guy. And I want to confront Sarah. No confrontation yet. We need more evidence first, and Tyler needs to confirm paternity. Can you document everything you've paid for Emma? Bank records, receipts, everything. I keep meticulous financial records. I can have everything printed by tonight. Good. One more thing, don't tell Sarah about this conversation. Don't change your behavior at all. We need her to think everything's normal while we build our case. After David hung up, I felt a mix of satisfaction and dread. The dominoes were starting to fall, but Sarah still had no idea what was coming. That worried me. Desperate people do unpredictable things, and Sarah had been playing this game for 3 years. She wouldn't go down without a fight. Tyler texted me at 3 p.m., asterisk just crossed into Massachusetts. Found more evidence from Chicago, Sarah left her earring in my hotel room. Still have it, asterisk. Physical evidence placing them together. This was getting better and better. My phone buzzed with another message, this one from Jessica, asterisk Sarah's asking family members for money. Says she has unexpected legal expenses. Something spooked her, asterisk. My blood ran cold. Sarah knew something was wrong. Saturday morning brought the first sign that Sarah was onto us. Jessica called at 7 a.m., her voice tight with worry. Marcus, Sarah showed up at my apartment last night. She was paranoid, asking if anyone had been asking questions about her or Emma. She wanted to know if you'd contacted me. I sat up in bed, instantly alert. What did you tell her? I lied. Said I hadn't heard from you in years. But Marcus, she's spooked. She kept talking about protecting Emma from people trying to hurt their family. She's planning something. An hour later, Tyler called with worse news. I drove by Sarah's address this morning, the house is empty. There's a moving truck in the driveway. She's running. I was already pulling up her Instagram, but her account had gone private sometime overnight. Her Facebook was completely deleted. Tyler, get to that house now. See if you can talk to the movers, find out where she's going. But when Tyler arrived, the moving truck was gone. The house was dark, with a "for lease" sign already posted in the front yard. Sarah Martinez had vanished again, taking Emma with her. I called David Kim immediately. He sounded hungover and miserable. She broke up with me last night, he said. Completely out of nowhere. Said she needed to focus on Emma and that our relationship was moving too fast. She blocked my number this morning. Did she say anything about leaving town? She mentioned visiting her cousin in Portland, but I thought she meant for a weekend. David's voice cracked. Marcus, I went to Emma's daycare this morning. Sarah withdrew her yesterday, said they were transitioning to a new program. The daycare director seemed confused because Emma was happy there. My mind raced. Sarah had systematically cut all ties in less than 48 hours. But she'd made one crucial mistake: she was engaged to Robert Castellano, and wealthy men don't like being played. I found Robert's restaurant number online and called directly. Mr. Castellano. This is Marcus Chin. I need to speak with you about Sarah Martinez. It's urgent and concerns Emma's safety. Sarah's in New York for a work conference, Robert said, his voice cautious. What's this about? Sir, Sarah isn't in New York. She's fled Boston with Emma. I have evidence that she's been defrauding multiple men, including you, regarding Emma's paternity. The line went dead silent. Then, what did you just say? Sarah has been collecting money from at least 4 different men, all believing they're Emma's father. She sued me for child support 3 months ago. When the DNA test proved I wasn't the father, I investigated further. I took a breath. Mr. Castellano, when's the last time you actually spoke to Sarah? Thursday night. She said she was flying out Friday morning for meetings all weekend. His voice was getting colder. Young man, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but check your credit cards. Has Sarah been using them? Hotel charges, restaurant bills, shopping. I heard keyboard clicking in the background. Robert's breathing changed. There's a charge from yesterday, he said slowly. Gas station in New Hampshire. But that's impossible, she's supposed to be in Manhattan. She's running, Mr. Castellano. And she's using your money to do it. I'll call you back in 10 minutes. When Robert called back, his voice was ice-cold fury. Marcus, I just called the hotel where Sarah was supposedly staying. They have no reservation under her name or mine. My American Express has been used 6 times since yesterday, gas stations heading north on I-95, grocery stores, even a children's clothing store in Maine. How much access does she have to your accounts? Too much. Robert's tone suggested he was a man used to being in control, and Sarah had just demonstrated how thoroughly she played him. We were planning to merge our finances after the wedding. She has cards, knows my PIN numbers. He trailed off. Jesus Christ, how much has she stolen? This was spiraling beyond simple paternity fraud. Sarah wasn't just disappearing, she was funding her escape with Robert's money, possibly setting him up to take the fall for her crimes. Mr. Castellano, I need to ask, did you ever legally adopt Emma or sign any paternity documents? Sarah said the paperwork could wait until after our wedding. His voice turned dangerous. Are you telling me that Emma isn't even her daughter? Emma is her daughter. But Sarah's been lying about who the father is, and she's been collecting support from multiple men based on those lies. Find her, Robert said. I don't care what it costs. Find her, and find my money. The next breakthrough came from an unexpected source. At 2 p.m. Sunday, I got a call from an unknown number with a 207 area code, Maine. Is this Marcus Chin? The voice was female, older, with a thick New England accent. Yes, who's this? My name is Dorothy Henley. I run the Seaside Motel in Bar Harbor. I have a guest here who paid with a credit card belonging to a Robert Castellano, but the woman using it is named Sarah Martinez. She's got a little girl with her. My pulse spiked. How did you get my number? The little one was crying earlier, missing her daddy. The woman tried to calm her down by showing her pictures on her phone. I saw her scrolling through text messages, and your name came up several times. Look, I've been running this place for 30 years, and something doesn't feel right about this situation. I put her on speaker and texted Robert immediately. Mrs. Henley, can you describe what you've seen? Well, the woman, Sarah, she's been making a lot of phone calls, pacing around the parking lot. Sounds angry, talking about lawyers and money. The little girl seems scared. She keeps asking when they're going home. Has Sarah mentioned where they're going next? That's the thing, I heard her on the phone earlier talking about a ferry. We've got ferry service to Nova Scotia from here. Runs twice daily during tourist season. My stomach dropped. If Sarah made it to Canada with Emma, this would become an international incident. Tyler would lose any chance of getting his daughter back. Mrs. Henley, this is very important. That little girl may have been kidnapped by someone who's not her legal guardian. Can you keep them there without making Sarah suspicious? Honey, I was thinking the same thing. Already told her our credit card machine is having issues, needs to run the payment again in the morning. Bought us some time. I conference called Tyler and Robert while pulling up ferry schedules online. The next departure to Yarmouth was Monday at 2:30 p.m., less than 24 hours away. We need to contact the police, Tyler said immediately. This is kidnapping now. With what evidence? Robert's voice was sharp. Sarah is Emma's mother. She can take her daughter anywhere she wants, technically. Not with your stolen credit cards, I pointed out. Robert, you need to report those cards as stolen immediately. Create a paper trail. Already done. I've also frozen my bank accounts and notified my attorney. Robert paused. Marcus, I've hired a private investigator. He's driving to Bar Harbor tonight. Tyler, you need to get there too, I said. If we can prove you're Emma's biological father, you'll have legal standing to prevent Sarah from taking her out of the country. I'm already packed. But how do we prove paternity without Sarah's cooperation? That's when I remembered something Jessica had mentioned. Tyler, did Sarah ever give you anything personal? A photo, a piece of jewelry, anything that might have Emma's DNA on it? Actually, yes. She left that earring in my hotel room in Chicago. I kept it thinking I'd mail it back to her, but then she stopped responding to my texts. That earring might have been in contact with Emma if Sarah wore it around her daughter. It's a long shot, but some labs can extract touch DNA from jewelry. Robert's investigator, a guy named Frank Morrison, no relation to Tyler, called me at 6 p.m. with an update. His voice was gravelly, professional. I've got eyes on the target. Sarah's holed up in room 12, hasn't left since this afternoon. The kid's been crying on and off. Motel owner slipped me a key card to the adjacent room so I can monitor the situation. Any sign she's planning to run again? Her car's packed with suitcases, and she's been checking ferry schedules on her phone. I'd say you've got until tomorrow afternoon before she disappears completely. Tyler called an hour later from the road. I contacted a mobile DNA testing service in Bangor. They can meet us in Bar Harbor first thing in the morning, but they need a sample from Emma. How are we supposed to get that without Sarah knowing? The motel owner, Dorothy, she's willing to help. Apparently Sarah asked her to watch Emma for an hour tomorrow morning while she handles some business in town. Dorothy thinks she can collect a hair sample or saliva from a drinking cup. This was getting complicated fast, but it might be our only shot. If Tyler could prove paternity before Sarah made it onto that ferry, we could stop her from disappearing forever. At 11 p.m., my phone rang one final time. Sarah's number. Hello, Marcus. Her voice was different, colder, more calculated than I'd ever heard it. I think we need to talk. Sarah. I kept my voice steady, but my hands were shaking. Where are you? You know exactly where I am, Marcus. You and your little detective friends have been tracking me like I'm some kind of criminal. Her laugh was bitter. Did you really think I wouldn't notice David suddenly asking weird questions about Emma's birth certificate? Or Robert's credit cards getting mysteriously declined? My mind raced. She knew about Robert's investigator, which meant she'd spotted the surveillance. This was bad. Sarah, just bring Emma home. Whatever this is about, we can figure it out without dragging a 3-year-old across state lines. Home. Her voice rose. Home to what, Marcus? To you destroying everything I built for my daughter. You have no idea what it's like trying to provide for a child alone. You weren't alone. You had multiple men helping you, thinking they were Emma's fathers. That's fraud, Sarah. That's survival, she snapped. Do you know what Tyler Morrison said when I told him I was pregnant? He said he wasn't ready for kids and maybe we should keep things casual. So I kept things casual by never telling him Emma existed. I felt a chill. You did tell him. You're lying. Am I? Check your facts, Marcus. I sent him exactly one text after Chicago, thanks for a fun night, but I think we want different things. He never responded. Never tried to contact me again. Some father material, right? This didn't match what Tyler had told me, but Sarah's voice carried conviction. Either she was an incredible liar, or Tyler hadn't been completely honest about their communication. Even if that's true, it doesn't justify what you did to David, or Mike, or Robert. You stole from them. I provided them with a family. David was miserable before he met Emma, lonely, workaholic, no purpose beyond his spreadsheets. I gave him something to live for. Mike was the same way, just going through the motions until he had a daughter to teach bike riding and bedtime stories. Her rationalization was chilling. In Sarah's mind, she was doing these men a favor by letting them believe Emma was theirs. What about Emma? I pressed. Doesn't she deserve to know who her real father is? Her real fathers are the men who've been there for her. David, who stayed up all night when she had pneumonia. Mike, who taught her to swim. Robert, who's been planning to adopt her. Sarah's voice cracked slightly. Tyler Morrison is a stranger who abandoned us before Emma was even born. I heard Emma crying in the background, calling for Daddy David. The sound twisted something in my chest. Sarah, listen to me. The police know about the credit card fraud. Robert's hired investigators. You can't run forever. Watch me. Her voice turned ice cold again. And Marcus? Stop following me. Stop turning my family against each other. Because if you don't, if you keep pushing this, I'll disappear so completely that none of you will ever see Emma again. Including her precious, real daddy, Tyler. You can't just. I'm her mother. I can take her anywhere I want. And there are a lot of places in this world where American private investigators can't reach. She paused. You have 12 hours to call off your dogs, Marcus. After that, Emma and I are gone for good. The line went dead. I immediately called Frank Morrison. She made me. Sarah knows about the surveillance. Yeah, I figured. She left about 10 minutes ago with the kid and all her bags. Drove toward the ferry terminal. The ferry doesn't leave until tomorrow afternoon. There's overnight parking at the terminal. She's camping out, probably planning to be first in line. Frank's voice was grim. Marcus, I lost visual when she went into the terminal building. Could be she's already gone, there are freight ferries that run different schedules. My blood ran cold. We might already be too late. I called Tyler immediately, catching him somewhere on Route 1 in the middle of the night. She's at the ferry terminal, I said without preamble. Frank lost visual, but she might be planning to catch an earlier departure. I'm 20 minutes out, Tyler said, and I could hear his engine revving. What about that DNA test? If she's already at the terminal with Emma. Dorothy can't help us now. We need another plan. I pulled up the ferry company's website, scrolling through departure schedules. Tyler, there's a cargo ferry that leaves at 6 a.m., in 5 hours. If Sarah's planning to disappear completely, that's her best shot. My phone buzzed with another call. Robert. Marcus, my investigator says Sarah's ditched her car. Security footage shows her walking into the terminal building with Emma and 2 suitcases, but she never came back out. Maybe she's sleeping in the waiting area. Ferry terminal closes at midnight. It's been locked down for 3 hours. Robert's voice was tight with controlled anger. She's either already gone, or she found another way out of the building. The implications hit me like a punch. Sarah had somehow vanished from a closed building with a 3-year-old and luggage. Either she'd caught a ferry we didn't know about, or... Robert, what if she never planned to take the ferry at all? What if the terminal was just misdirection? Meaning what? Bar Harbor's got a small airport. Private charter flights, tourist helicopters, scenic flights over Acadia. I was already Googling local aviation companies. If Sarah wanted to disappear completely, a charter flight would be perfect. No passenger manifests for private planes under a certain weight limit. Tyler's voice crackled through the phone. I just passed the airport. There's a small plane on the runway, lights on like it's prepping for takeoff. Get there now, Robert said. I'm calling the state police. But even as Tyler floored it toward Bar Harbor Municipal Airport, I knew we were probably too late. Sarah had played us perfectly, making us think she was trapped at the ferry terminal while she arranged a completely different escape route. At 2:47 a.m., Tyler called with the news I'd been dreading. They're gone. Charter pilot says a woman and small child departed for Montreal at 2:15 a.m. Paid cash, gave fake names, but the description matches perfectly. Montreal. Once Sarah and Emma crossed into Canada, everything would change. Extradition for financial crimes was complicated enough, but child custody across international borders could take months or years to resolve. Did the pilot say anything else? Yeah, actually. Tyler's voice was strange. He said the little girl seemed upset about leaving. Kept talking about wanting to call Daddy David to say goodbye. The pilot felt bad enough about it that he almost refused the flight. Something about that detail nagged at me. Emma wanting to call David specifically, not Mike or Robert or any of the other men she'd been told were her fathers. In 3 years of Sarah's elaborate deception, Emma had apparently bonded most strongly with David Kim. I called David at 3 a.m., knowing he'd be awake. Finance guys were notorious insomniacs, and learning your entire relationship was a lie didn't help with sleep. Marcus? Please tell me you found her. David, I need to ask you something important. In all the time you spent with Emma, did she ever say anything about her real daddy or ask questions about where she came from? That's actually weird that you ask. David's voice got thoughtful. About 6 months ago, Emma found some old photos in Sarah's purse. Pictures of a man she didn't recognize. When she asked Sarah who it was, Sarah got really flustered and said it was nobody important. My pulse quickened. Did you see the photos? Just a glimpse. Young guy, maybe late 20s, brown hair. Emma kept the photo, actually. Sarah tried to take it back but Emma hid it in her bedroom. David, this is crucial. Do you still have access to Emma's room? Sarah gave me a key to her place last year. I don't think she ever asked for it back. David paused. Marcus, what are you thinking? I'm thinking Emma might have been holding on to a picture of her real father this whole time, and Sarah didn't even realize it. If that photo was still in Emma's room, and if it showed Tyler Morrison, it would be physical evidence that Sarah had known Tyler's identity all along. Combined with Tyler's hotel receipts from Chicago and the timeline of Emma's birth, it might be enough to prove Sarah had deliberately concealed Emma's paternity. David, can you meet me at Sarah's house in an hour? Is this legal? I mean, technically I'm not supposed to be there anymore. Sarah committed fraud and fled the state with stolen money. I think we're past worrying about technicalities. At 4:30 a.m., David and I stood outside Sarah's rental house in Westfield. The for lease sign creaked in the early morning wind, and most of Sarah's belongings were gone, but she'd left the place furnished. Emma's bedroom was exactly what you'd expect for a 3-year-old, pink walls, stuffed animals, a toddler bed shaped like a race car that David had obviously purchased. But hidden behind Emma's dresser, tucked into a gap between the wall and furniture, was a small wooden jewelry box. Inside, wrapped in a child's drawing of stick figures labeled Emma and Daddy, was a photograph. Tyler Morrison, exactly as David had described him. Young, brown hair, wearing a conference name tag that clearly showed Chicago Marketing Summit 2021. Emma had been carrying a picture of her biological father for months, maybe years. And somehow, a 3-year-old had understood what the adults in her life were too manipulated to see. David stared at the photograph in the dim light of Emma's abandoned bedroom, his hands shaking. She knew, he whispered. Emma knew who her real father was this whole time. I carefully took the photo from him, studying Tyler's face. The conference name tag was clearly visible, Chicago Marketing Summit 2021, exactly matching Tyler's timeline. Emma's childish drawing wrapped around it showed stick figures holding hands, with Emma and Daddy written in purple crayon. David, look at this drawing more carefully. I pointed to details I'd initially missed. She drew Tyler with brown hair, just like in the photo. But she always drew you with black hair, right? Yeah, she was weirdly specific about that kind of stuff. David's voice cracked. Marcus, do you think she was trying to tell me something? All those times she showed me this picture. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, asterisk stop looking for us. You found what you wanted. Leave Emma alone, asterisk. Sarah. Somehow she knew we were in the house. I immediately called Frank Morrison. Frank, how is Sarah contacting me? I thought she was on a plane to Montreal. That's what I'm trying to figure out, Frank replied, his voice tense. I just reviewed the airport security footage. The woman who got on that charter flight was wearing Sarah's jacket and had the same hair, but something felt off about her body language. My stomach dropped. You think Sarah sent someone else on that plane? I think Sarah's a lot smarter than we gave her credit for. The pilot said the woman barely spoke, kept her face turned away from the cameras, and insisted on boarding immediately without going through the terminal. What about Emma? The pilot saw a child. Frank was quiet for a moment. Marcus, I need to tell you something. I called the charter company back, asked more specific questions. The pilot said the child seemed unusually quiet and was wearing a hood that covered most of her face. He assumed she was sleepy, but now you think it might not have been Emma at all. I think we've been chasing shadows while Sarah's been planning something completely different. My phone rang immediately, Tyler, calling from Bar Harbor. Marcus, I'm at the motel where Sarah was staying. The owner, Dorothy, she found something in Sarah's room after she checked out. Tyler's breathing was rapid, like he was running. It's a burner phone with text messages. Sarah's been in contact with someone named Miranda, talking about the handoff and keeping the package safe until things cool down. Package. My blood ran cold. Tyler, where exactly did Sarah go when she left Emma with Dorothy yesterday morning? Dorothy said she drove toward town, mentioned something about meeting an old friend. The pieces clicked together with horrifying clarity. Sarah hadn't fled to Canada at all. She'd arranged for someone else, probably this Miranda, to take the charter flight as a decoy while she went underground somewhere much closer. Emma could be anywhere within a few hundred miles of Bar Harbor. Frank, we need to check every hotel, motel, and rental property within driving distance of Bar Harbor. Sarah's still in the area. But even as I said it, I realized how futile that sounded. Maine had thousands of vacation rentals, hunting cabins, and seasonal properties that would be empty in early spring. Sarah could hide Emma in any of them for weeks. David grabbed my arm, pointing to something else in Emma's jewelry box. Marcus, there's more stuff in here. Under Tyler's photograph were several other items, a ticket stub from the Boston Children's Museum dated 2 months ago, a receipt from Mike Johnson's gym with a child guest pass, and strangest of all, a business card for Robert Castellano's restaurant with a phone number written on the back in adult handwriting. I flipped the business card over. The phone number wasn't Robert's, it was completely different, with a 207 area code. Maine. David, Sarah's been planning this for months. Maybe longer. I photographed everything in the jewelry box with my phone. She's had a safe house in Maine this whole time. My phone buzzed with another text from Sarah's number, *, you're getting warmer, Marcus. But Emma's safe, and she's going to stay that way. Some fathers don't deserve their daughters, *. This time, I was ready. I immediately forwarded the text to Frank Morrison along with the main phone number from Emma's jewelry box. Frank, can you trace this number? Sarah's been planning this escape for months, but she made a mistake leaving evidence in Emma's room. Already on it, Frank replied. The number's registered to a vacation rental company in Acadia. I'm cross-referencing their properties with recent bookings. 20 minutes later, Frank called back with an address. Isolated cabin about 15 miles inland from Bar Harbor. Booked 3 months ago under the name Miranda Walsh, paid in cash through a mail forwarding service. Sarah had been planning her disappearance since before she ever sued me for child support. The legal action against me hadn't been about money at all, it had been about creating chaos to cover her real escape plan. But now we knew where she was. At 6:43 a.m., Tyler, David, and I met Frank Morrison at a gas station 5 miles from the cabin. The Maine State Police had been called, but Frank warned us they'd want to handle this as a standard custody dispute unless we could prove criminal activity. The problem is jurisdiction, Frank explained, spreading a map across the hood of his truck. Sarah's Emma's legal mother. Even if she's committed fraud in Massachusetts, Maine authorities might see this as a civil matter. What about the stolen credit cards? David asked. Robert would have to press charges, and even then, it's a financial crime. Doesn't necessarily give us grounds to remove Emma from her mother's custody. Frank pointed to a wooded area on the map. The cabin's here, end of a dead-end logging road. One way in, one way out. My phone buzzed with a call from Robert. Marcus, my attorney's been in contact with the Maine State Police. They're willing to investigate the financial fraud, but they won't move on Emma unless we can prove she's in immediate danger. What constitutes immediate danger? Evidence that Sarah's planning to leave the country permanently, or proof that Emma's being harmed. Robert's voice was grim. My lawyer says our best shot is if Emma's biological father can prove paternity and request emergency custody. I looked at Tyler, who was staring at the map with an expression I couldn't read. Tyler, you've been quiet. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about what Sarah texted you, some fathers don't deserve their daughters. He met my eyes. Marcus, what if she's not wrong? What if I really did abandon them? David frowned. What do you mean? I've been going over every conversation Sarah and I had in Chicago. Every text message afterward. Tyler pulled out his phone, scrolling through old messages. She sent me that text about wanting different things 3 weeks after we met. I was in the middle of grad school finals, stressed out of my mind, and I let it go. I didn't fight for her. Because you didn't know she was pregnant, I pointed out. But what if she tried to tell me and I missed the signals? What if I was so focused on my own life that I ignored signs she needed me? Tyler's voice was getting shaky. Emma's been carrying around my photograph for 3 years. She knew who I was even when I didn't know she existed. Frank checked his watch. We need to move. State police will be here in 30 minutes, and once they take over, this becomes official. If you want to try talking to Sarah first, now's the time. The cabin sat in a clearing surrounded by pine trees, exactly the kind of isolated retreat Sarah would choose for hiding. 2 cars were parked outside, Sarah's rental BMW and an older Honda Civic with Massachusetts plates. That's Miranda's car, Frank confirmed, checking the license against his notes. So we've got at least 2 adults and Emma inside. Through the cabin's front window, I could see movement, someone walking back and forth, gesturing like they were arguing. Sarah's distinctive silhouette was unmistakable, but I couldn't see Emma anywhere. David grabbed my arm. Marcus, what if we're wrong about this? What if Sarah really is trying to protect Emma from something we don't understand? Before I could answer, the cabin's front door opened. Sarah stepped onto the porch, her phone pressed to her ear. Even from 50 yards away, I could hear her voice carrying through the morning air. I don't care what the lawyers say, she was shouting. Emma's not going back to that mess. Do you know what those men would do to each other fighting over custody? She was talking to someone about custody arrangements, but not trying to avoid them. She was trying to control them. Tyler, I whispered, I think Sarah's planning to come back. This whole thing isn't about running away permanently. It's about negotiating from a position of power. Tyler's eyes widened. She's using Emma as leverage to get what she wants from all of us. And that's when Emma appeared in the doorway behind Sarah, clutching a stuffed animal and looking directly at our hiding spot in the tree line. Even from a distance, I could see her lips moving. She was saying, "Daddy David," over and over again. Emma spotted us through the trees, and I watched her face light up with recognition. She broke away from Sarah and started running toward our position, her stuffed rabbit bouncing in her arms. "Daddy David. Daddy David," she called out, her small voice echoing across the clearing. Sarah spun around, her phone clattering to the porch floor. "Emma, no. Come back here." But Emma was already halfway across the clearing, her little legs carrying her as fast as they could. David stepped out from behind the trees without thinking, dropping to his knees as she launched herself into his arms. "I knew you'd find me," Emma said, burying her face in David's shoulder. "I saved the picture like you taught me. The one of my real daddy from Chicago." My heart stopped. Emma had understood everything all along. She'd kept Tyler's photograph not as some confused 3-year-old's treasure, but because David had somehow taught her the importance of truth. "What picture, sweetheart?" David asked gently, smoothing her hair. Emma pulled the photograph of Tyler from her jacket pocket, now wrinkled from being carried. "Mommy said this man was nobody, but you told me everyone is somebody important. So I kept it safe." Sarah was walking toward us now, her face a mask of controlled fury. "David, you have no right to be here. You're trespassing, and you're scaring Emma." "I'm not scared," Emma said firmly, still clinging to David. "I want to go home. I want to see Daddy Mike and Uncle Robert too. Why do we have to run away?" A woman emerged from the cabin, Miranda, presumably, and I could see her filming everything with her phone. Sarah had been documenting this entire confrontation, probably planning to use it as evidence that we were harassing her. "Sarah," Tyler stepped forward, showing Emma's photograph. "We need to talk. All of us." "There's nothing to talk about with you," Sarah snapped. "You made your choice 4 years ago when you ignored my messages." "What messages?" Tyler's voice was steady, but I could hear the strain. "You sent me one text saying we wanted different things. That was it." "I sent you 3 messages," Sarah shot back. "Including one that said I had something important to discuss and needed to see you again. You never responded." Tyler pulled out his phone, scrolling through his message history. His face went pale. "Sarah, I only received 1 text from you. Ever." Miranda spoke up for the first time. "Sarah, show him your phone." The sent messages. But Sarah's face had changed, confusion replacing anger. She looked at her phone, then at Tyler, then back at her phone. They're not here anymore. I must have deleted them when I got my new phone." The truth was becoming clear. Either Sarah had never sent those messages, or there had been some technical failure that made her think Tyler was ignoring her. For years of planning this elaborate revenge, and it might have been based on a misunderstanding. Frank Morrison's radio crackled to life. "State police, 2 minutes out." Emma looked up at the sound, then at all the adults surrounding her. "Are you all going to fight about who my daddy is again?" she asked in a small voice. "Because I already know." We all stared at her. Sarah knelt down to Emma's level. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Emma pointed at Tyler's photograph, then at Tyler himself. "That's my real daddy from before I was born. But Daddy David taught me to ride bikes, and Daddy Mike taught me to swim, and Uncle Robert makes the best pasta." She looked directly at Sarah. "Why can't I have all of them? Why do we have to run away?" Out of the mouths of babes. Emma had solved the puzzle that had consumed all of us for months. She didn't need just one father, she needed all the men who had loved her and contributed to raising her. But the sound of approaching sirens reminded us that Emma's simple solution might not be enough to fix the legal mess Sarah had created. The Maine State Police arrived with 3 cruisers and a detective who looked like she'd handled plenty of custody disputes that had gone sideways. Detective Lisa Hartwell, no relation to the law firm that had started this nightmare, surveyed the scene with the practiced eye of someone who'd seen too many families torn apart by legal battles. "All right, folks," she said, stepping out of her cruiser. "I'm going to need everyone to take a step back and explain to me what's happening here." Sarah immediately went into victim mode, her voice taking on the trembling quality I remembered from our breakup 3 years ago. "Detective, these men have been stalking me and my daughter. They followed us here from Massachusetts and they're trying to take Emma away from me." "That's not true," David said firmly, still holding Emma. "Sarah's been defrauding multiple men, claiming we're all Emma's father and collecting money from us." Detective Hartwell held up a hand. "One at a time." "Ma'am," she nodded to Sarah, "you're the child's mother." "Yes, and I have full legal custody. These men have no rights to Emma. And you gentlemen are claiming to be the father?" Tyler stepped forward. "I believe I'm Emma's biological father. I have evidence, hotel receipts, timeline documentation, and this photograph that Emma's been carrying." He handed over the picture and his folder of evidence from Chicago. Detective Hartwell studied the materials, then looked at Emma, who had gone quiet in David's arms. "Sweetheart, what's your name?" "Emma Martinez," she said in a small voice. "I'm 3 3/4. "Emma, do you know why all these grown-ups are here?" Emma nodded solemnly. "They're fighting about who gets to be my daddy. But I already have lots of daddies. I don't understand why that makes Mommy sad." Sarah's face crumpled. For the first time since this whole mess started, she looked genuinely broken rather than manipulative. "Emma, baby, it's more complicated than that." "No, it's not," Emma said with the brutal honesty only toddlers possess. "You told me I have lots of daddies who love me. That makes me lucky, not sad." Detective Hartwell was taking notes, clearly trying to sort through the mess. "Ma'am, these men are alleging financial fraud. Have you been collecting support payments from multiple parties for the same child?" Before Sarah could answer, my phone buzzed with a call from Robert. "Marcus, put me on speaker. The detective needs to hear this." I held up my phone. "Detective, this is Robert Castellano. I was engaged to Sarah Martinez until yesterday, when I discovered she'd stolen approximately $15,000 from my accounts while fleeing to Maine." "That's not stealing," Sarah protested. "Robert gave me access to those accounts willingly. We were planning to get married." "Ma'am, did you inform Mr. Castellano that you were taking his money to fund this trip?" Sarah's silence was answer enough. Detective Hartwell turned to Frank Morrison, who'd been quietly documenting everything. And you are? Private investigator hired by Mr. Castellano. I have photographs, financial records, and witness statements documenting a pattern of fraud dating back 3 years. Miranda, who'd been filming this entire interaction, finally spoke up. Detective, I think there's something everyone needs to know. Sarah, show them the letter. What letter? Sarah's voice was sharp. The one that came to your apartment last week. From the Chicago law firm. My stomach dropped. Sarah slowly reached into her purse and pulled out an official-looking envelope, still sealed. Sarah, Miranda said gently, maybe it's time to stop running and find out what Tyler's lawyers actually wanted. The envelope was addressed to Sarah Martinez from Morrison and Associates, Tyler's surname, but that had to be coincidence. Sarah's hands were shaking as she opened it. Her face went white as she read. This can't be right. What does it say? Detective Hartwell asked. Sarah looked at Tyler with an expression I couldn't read. They want to arrange a meeting to discuss voluntary child support and visitation rights. Her voice was barely a whisper. You've been trying to find us to help, not to take Emma away. Tyler nodded slowly. Sarah, I've been looking for you for 2 years. Ever since I hired a private investigator to track down that one-night stand from Chicago, who I couldn't stop thinking about. The last piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Sarah had been running from the very thing she'd been desperately trying to create, a father who actually wanted to be part of Emma's life. The next 20 minutes changed everything. Detective Hartwell arranged for us to move this conversation to a more private setting, the cabin's living room, where Emma could play with her toys while the adults sorted through 3 years of misunderstandings and deception. Sarah sat on the couch, still clutching the unopened letter from Tyler's lawyers, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I thought you were all going to try to take her from me, she said quietly. When Marcus started digging into everything, when David began asking questions about birth certificates, when Robert's credit cards got flagged. I panicked. Tyler knelt on the floor next to Emma, who was showing him her stuffed rabbit. Sarah, I want to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. When you left Chicago, did you know you were pregnant? Not for sure. But I suspected. Sarah wiped her eyes. I was scared, and I was young, and when I sent those follow-up texts and didn't hear back. I never got them, Tyler said firmly. I swear to you, I only received one message. If I'd known about Emma, if I'd known you wanted to see me again, everything would have been different. Detective Hartwell looked up from her notes. Ms. Martinez, I need to understand the financial situation. How much money are we talking about total? Sarah took a shaky breath. David's paid about $47,000 over 18 months. Mike contributed maybe $25,000 for daycare and expenses. Robert. She glanced at me. Robert was different. We were actually engaged. I wasn't scamming him. But you were planning to let him legally adopt Emma while collecting support from David and Mike? I asked. I was going to stop taking money from them after the adoption went through, Sarah said defensively. I was trying to give Emma stability with Robert while maintaining relationships with the men who'd been father figures to her. Emma looked up from her toys. Mommy, why are you crying? Did I do something wrong? No, baby, Sarah pulled Emma close. You didn't do anything wrong. The grown-ups made some mistakes, and now we're trying to fix them. David cleared his throat. Sarah, I need you to understand something. I don't want my money back. Emma needed things, and I was happy to provide them. What hurt was the lying. Making me think I was her biological father when you knew I wasn't. Same here, Mike's voice came from my phone. I'd conference called him during the drive to Maine. I loved being Emma's dad, even if it wasn't real. But Sarah, you should have told us the truth from the beginning. Tyler opened the letter from his lawyers and read it aloud. Ms. Martinez, our client Tyler Morrison has been attempting to locate you regarding his daughter Emma. Mr. Morrison wishes to establish voluntary support payments and regular visitation, with no intention of disrupting Emma's current living arrangements. Please contact our office to arrange a meeting. Sarah started crying harder. Tyler, I'm so sorry. I thought you'd abandoned us, and I was trying to create the family Emma deserved, and everything just spiraled out of control. Detective Hartwell closed her notepad. Here's what's going to happen. Ms. Martinez, you're going to return Mr. Castellano's money immediately. The fraud charges will depend on whether the other gentlemen choose to press charges, but I strongly recommend everyone work this out civilly. Emma crawled into Tyler's lap, studying his face carefully. You look just like the picture, she announced. Are you going to disappear like Mommy said? Never, Tyler said, his voice thick with emotion. Emma, I'm going to be part of your life forever, if that's okay with you. But so are David and Mike and Robert, because they love you too. Can we all have dinner together? Emma asked. Like a big family. Sarah looked around at all of us, her victims, her daughter's father figures, the men whose lives she'd manipulated for 3 years. I don't deserve forgiveness, she said quietly. Maybe not, David said. But Emma deserves her family. All of it. 6 months later, Emma Martinez Morrison had the most complicated custody arrangement in Massachusetts family court history. Tyler had full legal recognition as her biological father, with Sarah retaining primary custody. David had official visitation rights as Emma's psychological father figure. Mike maintained his relationship through a less formal arrangement. And Robert, after getting his money back and calling off the engagement, surprised everyone by asking to remain Uncle Robert. As for me, I finally called Lisa, the woman I pushed away 3 years ago because I was too messed up about Sarah's disappearance. She answered on the first ring. Marcus Chen, she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. I wondered when you'd finally call. Sarah's lawsuit had exposed everything, all right. It exposed her lies, Emma's real parentage, and the truth that sometimes families don't look like what you expect. But most importantly, it exposed the fact that love doesn't diminish when it's shared, it multiplies. Emma got her big family dinners. And I got my life back.